And welcome back to the Young Dad Podcast. Whether you're outside grilling, mowing the lawn, changing dirty diapers, or maybe, just maybe, you got a few minutes to yourself to pop this on the TV, sit back on the couch, and listen to your favorite podcast. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me today. And of course, welcome in. Today, I'm joined by a educator, entrepreneur, founder of Create Calm Yoga, and and an author as well. Hay House author. That's what it is. I can read. Sometimes I can't read my own notes, and that's on me. Or I don't set myself up for success when writing these. When I'm actually trying to write it, it sounds fine in my head. It has to come out, and it doesn't always translate that well. Today we're talking yoga. We're talking about possible cultural shifts. We're talking raising calm, nervous system regulation, raising kids, creating space for growth, and many more things in between. Or maybe none of it and something completely different. I don't know. We're just starting this conversation, so we're going to jump in. So with that, let's welcome Lisa to the show. Lisa, welcome to the show and to the audience. Make sure you guys have your juice box, grab a snack, and let's jump in today. Lisa, welcome.
I love it. It is so great to be here. I'm super excited to chat with you about how we can bring a little calm and maybe even, balance a little energy in the daily routines of all these folks listening and joining in today. I want to give you a little bit of background on me and
Absolutely.
where I'm coming from. I'm actually a grandma, so I've been doing this for a few years, and I have two grown sons who have on and off used yoga, although they've been resistant because their mom did it, but they've used yoga to regulate their bodies to actually address some medical situations, illnesses, and injuries. And they've used mindfulness to help them in very, very stressful jobs. And so I'm hoping that I can help other folks with those tools because I have a long history of personal meditation and yoga practices and have been bringing it into schools for almost 30 years. So in my former life, I was a school administrator. Before that, I worked as a law firm manager. So I have a lot of experience in very stressful situations. And throughout the law firm management and the school management, I was raising two boys, and I wanted to make sure that they had the tools to be balanced emotionally, but to be able to feel, to be able to be big, to be able to be little, and to build really rich and robust relationships out there in their community. And so I work to bring these practices into our family experience, but you know, I always say it was a little too late. Like, I wish I knew then what I know now. So I want to tell listeners out there, you're not late. You're exactly on time. You're getting it when you're supposed to get it. And the damage you've done, your kids they're gonna be okay. They're gonna find a way despite you.
100%. I can see that. No, it's interesting, right? A lot of parents, a lot of people my age, and I'm 30, started this podcast when I was in my 20s, which is kind of crazy to believe. Makes me feel older than I am, but there's a lot of my peers around my age, a lot of millennials that feel younger millennials, maybe not older millennials, younger millennials. The older ones got a little bit more figured out. But as younger millennials, we feel kind of we're in this weird spot, right? Where we're like, are we are we behind? Are we on time? Are we where we're supposed to be? But at the same time, we look back at our like 30, 30, 35 years, the last 30, 35 years of just life in general. And it's like, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in our lifetime. We lived through, for people my age that are 30, 31, 32, we were in elementary school, the kindergarten, first, second grade when 9/11 happened. We were, we were so young when 9/11 happened. Um, we've seen, Afghanistan, Iraq, and president changes and all the things growing up into today that's happened just across our society. We've seen just, massacres and tragedy and massive hurricanes and natural disasters. And we've lived through this as millennials. Not saying that the generation before us hasn't, but it's like you guys were adults going through this. We're kids going through it and experiencing. Not saying that every generation doesn't have their thing, but it's like there's been a lot the last 30 years in our society, and so I think it's a lot of millennials. We feel like we're struggling because it's like, yes, we wanna get to that next phase of life of family and home ownership and the American dream and whatnot, but at the same time, it's like those things are also out of reach for us now at the same time.
Yeah, and I actually I wanted to comment on that. I was actually having a conversation with a friend yesterday about this because I think that for that group, that generation, that age group, not to get too technical, but Eric Erickson, a psychotherapist, has this developmental theory, and he says that between like late teens into early 30s, we are navigating identity formation versus role assumption. And so I think what you're talking about is a little bit of that. Like, I feel this sense of who I am and that I'm okay and that I'm going to figure this out. But then I also feel this obligation to take on these roles, these social roles that have been earmarked for someone like me, right? And so you're navigating, how can I be my own person and feel confident and have this knowing and also fall into these old-fashioned roles that have been established through previous generations, and you are finding your way. You're redefining roles and counting more on identity, which in the long run is going to make you all so much superior, so
Totally.
much together. Like y'all have it, and I have no doubt. In the conversation with my friend yesterday, they were saying, "Oh, I feel so bad. We've left the country in such a mess. We've left the world." And I said, "No, this generation has it. This generation is capable of knowing who they are and how to right the ship, even though sometimes it feels like you don't." I have faith in you. I do.
Yeah.
They say that my generation was and the three or four before me, they were the period of believing, and that this is now the period of knowing. If you follow astrology at all, we went from the Piscean to the Aquarian age. There was this great song. If you haven't heard it, look it up. The Age of Aquarius. Really cool
I
song
think I've
from
heard
the
of it. I think I've
60s.
heard of it.
Yeah. Go look it up. It's a great song. But this notion that we're coming into our knowing, and you are the ones who can make the biggest difference as you come into your knowing. And your kids are even more coming into their knowing. And that's why we have this energy dysregulation. That's why we have the disconnect. Because while you're coming into your knowing, they're even more powerfully coming into their knowing.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, right? We when we talk about identity and role formation at the same time, right? Because we those two things, they're different, but they're also massively similar at the same time. And oftentimes one influence the other, especially for men, right? Our roles influence our identity more so than the other way around. Our identity doesn't really influence our roles. Our roles influence our identity.
Yes,
And so it's very, very common for men to get caught up in their identity is the roles that they have. Their
yes,
identity is the roles. Their identity is the what people refer to them as, whether that's their job or whether that's their titles at home. Like that's who they are. That's who they become. And that's who they are daily. And then they add new roles, coaches, or maybe they, get involved at churches, there's other places, and they just have these new roles that add to their identity and whatnot. But then if you take those roles away, the man is often left with no identity, right? And then a lack of purpose, and it really hurts a lot of men, especially as they get older. I mean, this is somewhat related here, but one of the most at-risk population for suicide is older adults and older men
yes.
because they lose their identity and their purpose.
Right. And I think what is at the core of that is when when we are in our identity state, we are connected to our values, and we can clearly identify what the values are when we're there. But we go into roles and often will compromise values. We'll compromise values to fit in these roles. The roles become the identity. And then, like you said, when the role disappears, you're floundering and you don't have a clear sense of who you are because you've now detached from your values and that knowing of your needs, of your strengths, of all your gifts. And so, how can we work to especially keep young men feeling confident in who they are, feeling assured without, um, you know, falling into this toxic arrogance and control of their experiences, and to be sensitive and attuned and to be able to connect their mind and body in a way that lets them know who they are, have the identity, and also have the role. So I think there's a really powerful opportunity there for us to develop systems where men can feel into their identity and role simultaneously. And I think that's where mind body practices come into play. Mind body practices allow us to see the thoughts, see the feelings, see what's going on in the body, and use the body to raise and lower energy, to build and dismantle connections so that we feel in control, and we can what part is the identity, what part is the role, and how can I stay me in all of it.
Yeah. And you have to find you in all of it, right? You have to find you before, but I think that's the thing too, is that like you changes over time and you don't connect with you enough, but at the same time you don't, it's not really the priority is to connect with you while you're going through those phases of life, raising kids, getting married, raising kids, whatnot, and going through life in that way. You doesn't really come there. That's why it's important to have those hobbies, to have those connections with other people, with yourself, with friends, and have your hobbies, have things you do. Not everyone's going to be doing a podcast like me, but other people do other things. I also game. I also do other fun things for myself that I like to do, right? And those are things that make me me. Like I've been doing those things I've been gaming since I was a kid. I've always been playing video games. I love a good video game and a cold energy drink, and I'm good for a Friday night, Saturday night kind of thing, and I'll stay for hours, hours, just disassociating, going through that. But a lot of
For my
people
kids, it
don't,
was tennis.
right? That's better. But a lot of people don't have those things, right? Like they don't have
Yeah.
those like those me things because they're either they don't they don't develop those things, they don't want to develop those things, or they're too busy going with what the me thing is for everyone else, especially kids now, like the younger generations, younger than myself, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. They all do like the same things. They all want to talk the same, be the same, look the same, act the same, and they're all caught in this massive groupthink. This all massive groupthink, and there's very little individuality. And when there is an individual, they're made fun of, they're berated, they're bullied because they're different than the group. They don't fit in, and that's a bad thing. When for me, it's like, yes, you want to be different. You want to be the one that breaks the mold. You don't. It's good. If you're different, great. Be different.
Well, and you know
Different
where you
doesn't.
find the different, I didn't mean to cut you off, but where you
You're good.
find the different is in those practices, those reflective practices, those moments where you take a walk in the woods and it's just you and the trees, or you go to a yoga mat and you move your body intuitively with your breath, or you sit in stillness. And that's exactly where you find it. And
Yeah.
I think that's and men are sometimes not encouraged enough to engage in those types of practices. You know, my dad found it at the end of a fishing pole. He was a fly fisherman, never caught a darn thing. He would spend hours standing in that water, feeling into himself.
Yeah. No, I find mine while I'm gaming and whatnot because I can just sit. I can just let the thoughts like go through my head and think things out. I also find mine while like because I do a lot of driving for work and whatnot between places, going to different meetings, things like that. So I do a lot of driving, and yesterday I'm just like sitting there and the music's not like super loud, like it's there in the background or whatever I was listening to. It was more background noise, but I had like a great idea for a podcast or a great idea for a night, great idea for a couple things. I'm like, whoa, those came out of nowhere. But it was after I just learned about doing breath work recently on the podcast. From a guest of mine. He gave me some really cool tools, taught me some really cool things, and taught me about some breath work. And then I was doing that, and I did some breath work and while I was driving and whatnot. And then the ideas just kind of flowed after that. It was like, whoa, this is weird. But I'm excited to tell him about that, how it just kind of cultivated into something there. But no, it's
So you,
interesting,
you accessed your nervous system.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you did. You
yeah,
used the breath work to access your nervous system, to regulate your physiology so that you could relax your mind and you could step into your own creativity.
Yeah.
You created space through your breath, and you created, and what I like to do is use the breath, but sometimes the breath isn't accessible to everybody as a practice right away. So I love that you were able to use it, but sometimes you need to move in order to find your breath. So, whether you're running or walking or doing yoga or whatever that big movement is, you can sort of feel into your experience. And then when you sit and you, like you said, you're in the car breathing, and you're tuning in to your breath, and you're tuning your nervous system in so that you create the space for the creativity. I love that.
Yeah. And I think it's absolutely crucial for men. Like you have two boys. You know how it is, but it's absolutely crucial for men, for boys to have those large motor movements because once you can if you can get a man moving and active and whatnot, then you get a man talking. And you get them a little bit more broken down, you get them relaxed, you get the blood flowing, you get their brain thinking, you get them, you know, spilling out the information and the things that they're holding in and just starts to flow, right? But for men, you have to get the body moving. Like I work with a lot of parents right now and they have these boys who are just, having these hard times. I'm like, so are you taking him to get his energy out? Are you taking him to run, to play, to move, to tumble, to get dirty, to move, to run, to jump, to play, to get dirty, and all these things. And they're like, well, a little bit every day. It's like, okay, he needs more, obviously, because if he's still bouncing off the walls come bedtime, that's the biggest reason right there. If they're having a hard time sleeping, for boys especially, then they're not getting their energy out during the day, right? Like you need
Yeah,
to
and
tire your boys out.
what we could do, that some of the techniques in my book are about channeling that big energy, right? And if we create playful experiences that are just part of the daily routine, then not only are you giving your child the outlet, but you're giving yourself the outlet. And in my book I talk a lot about the nervous system and co-regulation, because when you work together to experience the big energy, you work together to calm down and come to a more steady state. So you are not only modeling for your child, but you're also regulating yourself. And the two of you are forming a co-regulated state, which is going to make you happier, which is going to help you get more stuff done, which is going to bring ease and space to every single day. And you just do it playfully.
Yeah,
Do you want to try one of
absolutely.
the things in my book? Okay. So let's go back to that parent that was telling you, yeah, I do some movement, but we don't do enough. And the kid is still bouncing off the walls. So instead of having a lot of conversation with kids or with guys, I just move. I don't want to have to
Yeah,
give you a whole bit.
it's just about getting moving.
Yeah, I don't want to have to tell you why you're doing it or anything like that. So I'm going to show you, and I'm going to walk you through it in a way that if you're not seeing me, that's okay. You can find your way through it. So if you'd like, you can do this sitting down, but it's best to do it standing because that's where we can feel into big energy. So there's something that we do when kids are feeling really, really wired and we want to do a little more grounding when they've got some big energy. And it is called Crouching Tiger. And it works really well with the youngers, but with the olders too. I've used it with teens and they really get into it. And there's a couple things that I want to point out about Crouching Tiger that are really amazing that I wouldn't bother to tell anybody else, but I'm telling you as the knower because I want you to have the information. In Crouching Tiger, we're grounding the feet and the body. We're making the body heavy so that we improve our proprioceptive connection to the environment. But we're also doing some sounding that is going to create a strengthening of vagal tone, the nervous system. It's going to help us activate the calm response and rebalance the autonomic nervous system. So let's give it a try. So if you can, stand up, and wherever you stand, make sure you have a little bit of room, but you don't need a ton. And then feel your feet on the ground and grow your feet really heavy on the ground and widen your stance a little wider than your hips.
I'm getting there, I promise.
No, take your time. So widen your stance a little wider than your hips, feet flat on the floor, and then bring your arms out to the sides and bend your elbows with your hands facing forward and curl your fingers in. You're going to make claws like a tiger. All right, now take a big breath in. And when you breathe out, you're going to squat down like a tiger in the grass and go, "Roar." Good. Come on, let's do it. We're breaking the mold today. Roar. I want to
Doing
hear
some
you.
weird stuff lately. I can't do it.
Come on, let's see you do it. Roar.
Can't do it.
Yes, you can. Come on.
I can't do it.
Yes,
Doing
you
some weird
can.
stuff on the podcast lately, people. This is for you. This is for the people.
This is for the people. Do it. Come on. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's do it again. Good. Make it as loud as you want. One more. All right. Now bring your feet together and start to stomp your feet. Imagine you are lava bubbling up under the earth. This is what it feels like to feel a little angry, maybe. You're bubbling your whole body. Now, squat down, bring your hands together, take a breath in, and when you breathe out, shoot straight up, extend your arms overhead and spread them out wide. So squat down, be that little bunch of lava, and breathe out and go whoosh. Make some lava again, shake your whole body. Go really low, bring your hands together, and breathe out and go. Awesome. Now just let your arms reach up and take a breath in, like you're filling up a balloon. Bring your hands together down the midline as you breathe out. Bring them right down in front of your heart or your belly. Let's do two more of those. That's a balloon breath. Big breath in and breathe it out. And one more time, a big breath in and breathe it out. Put your hands on your heart if you want or on your belly. And take a moment and notice how you feel. Maybe you feel your heartbeat. Maybe you feel sensations in your body. Without any judgment, just let it all be there. And then relax. Tell me what you notice.
Well, first, I noticed that the people watching probably had a good laugh. I probably got some entertainment out of that. So congratulations, you're welcome at my expense.
You're
Um,
welcome, folks.
let's see what else. Let's see. Yeah, I feel good. Feel calm. Feel focused.
So, yeah, good, good. So can you see how if you had stuff stuck in you or like this bigness around you, that maybe something like that kind of movement, and it's very linear, you didn't need a lot of space. You stood right there at your desk and did it, right?
I know I had to stay connected to my headphones, so
But that was good. You could.
yeah,
You could. And once you let yourself be present, you were able to do it wonderfully.
yeah. No, it was good. It was fun. I like it. That's cool.
So those are the times when there's that big energy in your, what we tend to do is we get caught up in that big energy that our kids bring or that our partners bring, or, folks walk in the door with stuff and we pick it up. And are you yawning?
I did yawn. Yeah,
That's good. Okay, so I love that you did that. So yawning is the best compliment you can pay me because it
I'm
says
a
that your nervous system is wanting more breath.
I'm a big yawn. I yawn throughout my podcast so often, whether I'm recording an hour before this, during this hour, or at night. I'm yawning all the time. I yawn so much.
So yawning is a natural reaction to the need for nervous system regulation, either raising or lowering energy. So when you yawn, it's your body trying to balance itself. So never squash a yawn. Let your yawn go because also on that exhale, especially if you go, oh, do
My
again.
yawns are normally pretty loud. I usually just like let them go through like my jaw a little bit. I try to like hide them when I'm on like the podcast, so it's just more like a frown all of a sudden.
No, you need to let it out. You need to yawn loud and proud because it's tuning your nervous system, and it's actually one of the foundational reflex mind-body connections that your autonomic system does subconsciously. So it's actually a really cool thing. It's breath work.
Yeah.
Yawning is
No,
breath.
yeah, and breathworks, it's interesting. I'm just learning about it and just getting used to it, or not getting used to it, but getting more familiar with it. So,
Yeah. So you mentioned that sometimes it's a challenge to get your kids up and out the door.
not today. They're well, rarely. Today they're up, they're moving. They both have come out here at least 2 times
Okay, good.
already. So we're up and grooving. So this is actually a smooth morning. I'm impressed because I don't do this very often. So it's more of I finish this, right, like I'll finish the hour before this. I'll get myself ready real quick, and then I'll get them up and moving right around this time and whatnot.
Well,
So they must have slept good last night.
sometimes breath work can help get folks moving. Just like breath work calms you down, breath work can also raise your energy.
Yeah.
And one of the simplest things that we do with kids to help increase their energy is something called candle breath. So you just imagine you hold a finger in front of you and you just imagine that it's a candle and you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth quickly and you pump your belly. So the exhale, you're squeezing your belly in towards your spine and that's helping you get that deeper breath, but it raises your energy. And so sometimes if you can even just put your finger in front of the kid's mouth and say, okay, blow out the candle, keep blowing it out, blow it out faster, then you're naturally increasing the energy, you're increasing the flow of breath, and you're getting them a little bit more capable of moving.
Interesting. I used to use that same strategy, but for when I taught swim lessons,
Yeah,
with younger kids. We use the candle all the time to help them get more comfortable with putting their face in the water, and so that they we would keep it up here. We would start it out of the water, and then they would blow it. We'd lower it down a little bit. They would blow it, and then we would get it right to the close to the water. Then they would blow it. Then we put it right under the water, and they would, and then they would blow the water out, and they would essentially learn to. It was younger kids mostly, like preschoolers and whatnot, but it helps them learn to blow the air out while they're in the pool, not suck air in. So
yeah.
it's cool.
And when you blow out, that's one of the reasons I do a lot of sounding with people, because when you blow out, you are clearing the way for a nice breath to come in, but you can't
Mhm.
breathe in. If you guide someone to blow out, they can't do the opposite.
Yeah. No, 100%, and it's super fun for the kids too doing that. I used to be a swim instructor for like 3, 4 years, um, back in my younger days and whatnot, and I loved it. I loved work teaching kids in the pool and whatnot.
I love it. So you've been doing breath work practices and teaching them for a long time then. You didn't even know it.
Yeah, well, with swimming you have to. You have like teaching kids how to swim, like you have to help them learn to find rhythm. You have to help them learn to find I don't want to say cohesion, but like a rhythm, right? To where, how many strokes are you going to take between breath? Are you going to breathe on your right side or are you going to breathe on your left? Like which feels more comfortable? Like I'm a right side breather, right? Like so when my right arm's out, that's the side I breathe on because I'm more comfortable with that. It's easier for my neck versus being on my left, it's a little bit more uncomfortable. So we have to find the side that we're comfortable on. And then
Well, you,
we have to time it, right? We have to time it just perfectly. Like, are we going to do every 2 strokes? Are we doing every 4 strokes? Or are we doing six or somewhere in between, right? Because it has to be an even number, right? Because you have to go one, two, breathe, one, two, three, four, breathe, and whatnot. And it's all about the person, their stamina, their and everything. And so it's really unique to each kid to how they do it, and they have to learn to take a quick breath because mostly their nose is going to be closed because they don't want to suck in anything because their nose will probably still be in the water. You turn out just enough in swimming just to get your mouth out of the water and then back in kind of thing. So it's a
so
lot of quick breaths.
that, what you just described, that that notion of moving your body rhythmically, that notion of timing and cueing the breath and the right force of breath and the right density and movement in the nose or the mouth, right? You're going in and out through both nose and mouth. But this notion of rhythm is the exact same thing we're doing in yoga. It's body, mind, and breath all coming together for synchronized experience. And what I think the word in yoga, more than rhythm, the word used is integration. And swimming is a very integrative practice. You have to have all three parts working together to flow. You flow in swimming, you flow in your yoga, you flow in your meditation, right? You flow in
Hmm.
life. So your example of swimming is really a great analogy for life, right? How do you find the rhythm? How do you get the tempo and the pacing and the right kind of breath and the right kind of thoughts and feelings? You have to be positive. You have to, let things go. You start to feel panicked. And what do? You have to find a way to let those feelings pass, let those thoughts pass. So I think that's a really nice analogy for a way that we can approach life. And if we can do things to practice not in the stressful moments themselves, but to practice those same tools, then when we get in the stressful moments, we have access to them.
Definitely. No, it it helps to have those tools in your belt, right? Helps to have them kind of in your back pocket for when those situations come up. And the best time to practice them is when you're in a calm, controlled environment, right? And it's just like regulating, like with our kids and working with them through their stuff. Like you can't really co-regulate with your kid if you're not regulated yourself, right? Or if you don't know how, if you haven't practiced it, you have to go back and practice that in controlled environments, in controlled situations. Role play it with your spouse or whomever, or role play it on your own and kind of run you through some mental drills or some actual drills and role play those with someone and things like that. And get those reps in, because you can't use a tool you've never used before without some frustration. But if you have some practice and some ability to do it, then when it comes game time, you're going to be able to step up and step in and do those things that you need to do.
That's exactly right. And you know, that's why I went from starting my own yoga practice to help myself to sharing yoga with kids and ultimately bringing it into schools in the community. But it starts with me. And if I don't understand the tools in my own body, and if I can't access these things for my own well-being and balance, then there's no way I'm going to impart them. It's one thing for me to walk into a room and do Crouching Tiger with you. It's another thing for me to walk in and say, you know what, Jay, you need to do Crouching Tiger. It doesn't work the
Right.
same. But
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger keeps it playful, right? So I can let the kids practice it. If before we sit down to do homework, we do 5 Crouching Tigers every day. It's playful. It's not attached to anything. But then the next time we're all in a really tense situation, if I go, I think we need a Crouching Tiger, then we can do it and we know. And kids get to where they're recommending it for their parents. I think you need a balloon breath, Dad.
Yeah, I love when the tables get turned on yourself and they use these things against you. My boss and I were talking about that yesterday, and how she would what would she say when the kids were younger and she needed a minute? She would say, "Oh, I think we need a little bedroom time," kind of thing. And now her kids are older, they're teenagers stuff, and now they do it just to they're teenage boys and whatnot, and they do it to mock her. And they're like, "Oh, mom, I think we need a little bedroom time." And it's just like a full circle. Those full circle moments are really cool. They're really funny when they get timed up just right. So,
Yeah. And they're so humbling. Like,
100%.
and they just keep everything real.
Mhm.
I mean,
100%.
we have things called mirror neurons in our brains that make us want to do what other people do. And so when our kids start to mirror what we're doing, it's a great reminder that maybe we want to do stuff differently.
And yeah, when we start to notice our kids do things like us that we probably don't want them doing, or when we notice our kids doing things that we're like, why are they doing that? Where are they picking that up from? It's important to reflect and to see where that might be coming from, because it's probably not coming from the places you think it is. It's probably coming from the places you don't want to admit it's coming from, and that's coming from within the home, things like that. Because we think about it, our kids are spending, if they're school age, they're spending 7 hours at school, kind of thing, and then they're home for the other 17 hours of the day, right? Like, where are they spending the most time? Is probably where they're getting most of their habits, their mannerisms, their routines, things like that. They're getting most of them from home. They're not getting as much as you think they are from school. They're getting some from there, yes, 100%. They are getting some from there, from peers, peer influence, things like that. But a lot of them also are coming from outside, from within the home too. And it's important to reflect and know what's going on within your four walls, and understand that. So.
Yeah, and Jay, you bring up something really important, I think, especially for men. And that is when you do start to do that reflection, when you do start to say, maybe I have a part in this, or I can make a shift in this. I think a lot of times, culturally and socially, we have discouraged men from from being accountable for mistakes, and it has resulted in, I think, increased shame that is unnecessary. And I think there are a lot of men out there who they see that maybe they could have made a shift. And instead of just making the shift and saying, hey, kids, sorry, dad did this and it didn't work, and being done with it, they go, crap, effed up and I'm going to be angry at myself. And then they start to do this internal spiral of I'm not good enough. I'm a lousy dad, or I'm a lousy spouse, or I'm ashamed. And we allow men to carry this deep shame and to hide their imperfections. And what I want is to see more dads that say, I'm feeling really out of control. I don't know what to do. Kids, help me out. Let's go through this together. I made a mistake. I'm not gonna, I don't want to do that again, but can you help me? And let them have permission to make mistakes and to not be ashamed of imperfections.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect, but it's okay to make those mistakes. But it's also encouraged to own up to your mistakes, and to not let them ruin your whole day. Some people say, "Oh, I had a bad day because this one thing happened," and you put that in perspective. No, you had a bad moment. The rest of your day was great, but you had one bad moment that you chose to let dictate the rest of your day, kind of thing. Like you can't let one bad moment totally dominate the rest of your day and how it outcome and everything like that. It's one bad moment. You can rebound, you can recover. It's okay. You can do it. Let's get back on the horse. Let's get back to it and let's get refocused here. Let's focus up and get back to it. So I think that's important to
Yeah, and
understand the difference.
from a yoga perspective, that's why we do balance challenges, right? That's why we do tree pose, because you do tree pose and 90% of the time you fall over, right? 90% of the time your gaze is off, or or you have to put your foot back down, or you're feeling ugly, or out of it. And it's a great practice in saying, oh, okay, I'm not steady right now, or oh, I made a mistake, or today's not the day, but to have that flexibility and to build in the capacity to be accountable and flexible and to not dwell on it and just say, okay, I'm going to try tree pose again tomorrow, you know? So if we could carry that attitude of trying to be more balanced tomorrow, of trying to be stronger tomorrow, without saying, I'm not balanced, I'm not strong, and saying there's something wrong with you. And so I like to do these balance challenges to keep me humble in my imperfection.
I like it. I like it. Well, Lisa, we before we wrap this thing up, we got a couple minutes of free time here before I wrap this thing up. Is there anything else that you want to mention? It's been a great conversation. I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes plus our little few minutes before we started. So it's been a great little conversation so far. But is there anything else that you want to mention just in a couple minutes before we wrap and close this thing up?
I think I want to send a thank you out there to your listeners who have made the time to take the pause, to reflect on who they are, to know that they're on the right path, even when sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And I just want to encourage folks to be playful, be curious, find the joy in between the challenges, and view the challenges as a big old science experiment and not take it too seriously. But I want the world to relax a little more and be
Yeah,
happier.
honestly, relax more, stress less, stress less.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I love that. All right, well, to wrap this thing up, I have a closing segment on the show. That's dubbed the Dad Zone. It's a few questions that I like to bring every guest into the Dad Zone for some lighthearted fun at the end of the show, to wrap us up. So, are you ready to enter into the Dad Zone, Lisa?
I am ready.
Perfect. So first question here in the dad zone, and that's a big one. It's a YDP staple. Does pineapple go on pizza?
No.
Great. Love it. I love it. There's not really any debate. So no, it's true. All right. Next question here in the dad zone. 3 people, dead or alive, that you would like to invite over for a dinner party.
I was thinking about this the other day. I would
And 3 people,
say
she does listen to the podcast, as you can tell.
I do.
She's been thinking about these questions. She was hoping she would get into the dad zone. She wasn't sure if she was gonna make the cut, but she got in. So she prepared. She's ready. She got her reps and watched her film. I love it.
Yeah, but you know what happened? I started spinning in it and I had this long, long list and I was like, oh crap, I have to come up with three. Okay. Um, I'm gonna choke on it because I had it already. The things that are coming to mind are gonna seem kind of funny. All right, this is gonna sound weird, and most of your listeners aren't even know who this is, but I'd like to invite the Marx Brothers for dinner.
Like Karl Marx and okay, interesting. Okay, that's two.
They're comedians.
Okay,
They're like silent movie kind of comedians. So I
okay.
wanted to because you don't really know who they are, and so like how are they on camera versus off camera? Um, I would like to invite to dinner. Again, this is going to sound really weird. Sigmund Freud, because I think he's an interesting person, and I'm not sure where I'd go with all of the conversation. Um,
Yeah, with Freud, you never know what
and
you're gonna get.
well, that's it. Yeah, and especially nowadays, right? Like with everything that's going on in this world today, I just thought that would be kind of interesting. The last one is Amelia Earhart.
I like it. Very cool. Very cool. Very unique. What is your guilty pleasure food?
Oh, I have a long list of those too.
Let's think back. What's one thing that you always try to hide from your sons that you were like, this is my snack, this is my special snack. I gotta hide it at all costs possible.
That would be chocolate ice cream.
Like it. And then what is one piece of advice that you would offer to a young parent, a mom or a dad, a young mom or a young dad, 18 to 22 years old, who's just starting out their parenting journey?
You're doing it exactly the way you're supposed to.
I love that. That's awesome. So simple. So simple. But I love that. All right. Well, Lisa, this has been a great conversation. Let me get something up here on the screen.
I've had so
Hold
much
on.
fun. Thanks. And I'm so
Of
excited I got to
course.
be in the dad zone.
Of course. It's an honor. Some people say it's like their favorite part of the podcast and they just skip to the dad zone to listen to the answers there because it's just their favorite part, right? They get
I
they
might
get
say my kids are going to skip to hear what I say,
yeah, 100%.
and they're going to give me
Uh
such a hard time. They're going to be like, "What? Those are the three people you chose?"
right? They're like, you couldn't pick this person or this person or this person, and they're like, did you forget about us, kind of thing. But no,
Exactly.
family's already there in the home. They're already like de facto included. So you don't gotta include them. But for the listeners, I don't know where they are. I think they're hanging up in your room.
Oh, I want to do
Yes, they are.
yoga with those kiddos.
Yes, they are. Anyways, so to make sure to all our listeners, here at the end of the podcast, make sure to check out Lisa's work here at createcalm.org. You can grab her book, Creating Calm in Your Classroom, published by Hay House. So whether you're a parent, educator, or therapist, her tools for nervous system regulation and emotional connection are a game changer, and they're an absolute must. So 100% recommend to go and check out her content, her material, her book. It could really be the key and the tool that you're looking for that you may not have right now in your classroom, in your office, or in your home even. So go and check that out. And then to our listeners, again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. Be sure to do all you can to show your love for the podcast. Like, comment, review, follow, leave 5 stars, all the things. You listen to podcasts, you know what to do. Share this episode with someone who needs a little bit of calm in the chaos. And until next time, love your people, show up, and lead with presence.
Love it. Thanks, Jay.
Of course, of course.